Hello friends, this is Worm. What were you expecting? And today I wanted to talk about Crota's in Raid because of course it's coming on Friday. Now, for those of y'all who may have missed it, we already covered the weapons, of course, and armor sets that you'll be getting from the raid, as well as basically any other drop that you can get from the raid, including like shaders, mods, like all that stuff. You can go check out the video, check out the link in the description of that video. But today I wanted to talk about the actual raid itself and the mechanics that we will maybe, hopefully, potentially see, and just kind of talk about the differences between the Destiny 1 version of Crota's End and the Destiny 2 version of Crota's End, right? Because of course, for those of y'all who were not around way back in 2014, 2015, Crota's End could be soloed, right? It could be soloed completely, I would say, without cheesing it, but I think there was one part where you could like kind of had to cheese it. But regardless of the fact, you could solo that entire raid, and let's be honest, that was unacceptable. And in Destiny 2, that would still be considered unacceptable. So I wanted to talk about each of the different sections of the raid, talk about how maybe Bungie could potentially change them, and just kind of have a general conversation about the raid and the mechanics and stuff like that. So, of course, Crota's End, Destiny 1, where was the actual location of the raid itself? It was on the moon, right? It was on the moon, it was in the Hellmouth, and without spoiling too much, it had a very, very interesting opening. Now there, of course, were 4 lootable sections. That was the Abyss, that was the bridge, that was the Death Singer, and that was, of course, Crota himself. I don't see Bungie deviating from this. I don't think we're gonna get any extra encounters, no bonus loot, blah, blah, blah for another additional encounter. Like, that would be really cool if maybe we saw the forming of the not the bridge, the drop gate, I guess, like right there at the very beginning. Maybe it would be cool if we saw that be a lootable like section, similar to how we got with King's Fall. Once you like do the Court of Oryx and all that stuff, then you could go and get that first chest. So, maybe they do something like that. Maybe they change it up so that it requires a little bit more mechanics, so you can't just do it solo. Because in Destiny 1, for those of y'all who don't remember, maybe you weren't there, in order to access the actual raid itself, you'd launch right at the edge of the Hellmouth. You would basically just stand on a plate and form a bridge out to the very middle of the Hellmouth, and you'd fall down it, and you'd fall all the way to the bottom. Right, well, in Destiny 2, I think that there could be some potential that maybe Bungie adds a little bit more of a mechanic to this. What it would be, I really don't know, but I think that Bungie could definitely add another layer to the raid and potentially maybe make it a looted sector, but also I wouldn't count on it. Like, I wouldn't assume that, hey, we're going to get this bonus sector, blah, 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 blah. So, I'm actually going to pull up something real quick right here, because in the raid mods, we did get a description of some of the new mechanics. Right, let's see here. We know that there's going to be plates, lanterns, totems. Obviously, there's going to be a sword relic. There's going to be a new buff, Drained of Light. Not sure what that's going to be, but we can maybe talk about that in a little bit. Again, Drained with Light, and then Engulfed in Light. Right, so we'll have to see kind of what those are. I have some ideas on what Drained of Light and Engulfed in Light. So I'm reading it over here. I have an idea as to what those might potentially be, but again, we'll talk to those a little bit later on. But yeah, that's the first section. Of course, not looted in Destiny 1. Maybe it's looted in Destiny 2. I don't see it happening that way, but it'd be cool if it did. Up next, though, we have the Abyss, right? And the Abyss was arguably one of the most fun parts of this entire raid. And to summarize it for you, if you haven't seen it or you didn't ever play in it, basically you and your fire team would walk through the bottom of the Hellmouth. Like, you literally would drop all the way to the bottom of it, pitch black, and you had to walk from lantern to lantern. And similar to the Lightblade strike, right? In the Lightblade, that last section before you get to the boss, you had those lanterns. They have to stop because you're catching the weight of darkness or whatever the debuff is, and it slows you down. It was the same thing in Crota's and raid back in Destiny 1. So of course, I don't see them changing that literally at all. You walk with your fire team to each lamp. You were absolutely consumed by Thrall. I mean, Thrall coming everywhere. You had Thrall, you had Cursed Thrall, you had a couple of knights that would spawn, and you would basically just go around this little maze. I say it was a maze. It wasn't really a maze because you just go like kind of an S shape, right? But you would go from lamp to lamp, go traverse the pit. Once you got to the end, you would then build a bridge. And I know that there's been several build a bridge parts, but bear with me here, okay? You would build the first bridge, and while you're building that bridge, that's when absolute hell broke loose, right? Like you had ogres, you had wizards, you had knights, thrall, curse thrall, like you had the whole 9 yards coming at you while you had to stand on this plate. Like you had to stand on this plate to build this bridge. And then what everybody did is as soon as the bridge was built, everybody hauled butt across it, and you'd go through and a little bit further until you went into the actual throne world itself. In terms of how this section could be changed, I don't see how much it could be changed, right? I mean, we know based on the Lightblade Strike that the whole darkness, the weight of darkness is still a very viable mechanic. We don't have like a whole lot that can circumvent it. Like, yes, you can argue that Amplified allows you to sprint, right? You can sprint right through it. You can use Strand to grapple and stuff like that. I can imagine one of the big changes they make is back in Destiny 1, this whole section was like a tiered like environment, right? Like you'd start at the bottom and then you'd work kind of an S, and like when you'd go straight, then when you got to the end, you'd go up a hill. Sorry, you can't really see this on the camera, but you'd go up a hill, and then you'd go back like towards the start on the second tier ledge, blah blah blah. Well, there was a part in there where you could literally just climb up and like skip a whole like one of the corners of the S, right? If that makes any sense. If it doesn't, I'm sorry, but I could see Bungie removing that so that you cannot do that. Like you have to go through the whole section of the raid, and of course at the end there, I mean, enemy density is going to be very high. Again, this is not something that Bungie wants players to be able to do solo, but at the same time, I don't. No, I take that back. There were, if I'm not mistaken, there were 3 plates, or was it just 1? I know there's multiple plates in different like areas, but I can't really remember too much. I haven't watched a Crota's Inn run in a long time, and I don't have an Xbox to do it anymore, unfortunately. Rest in peace, Xbox. But yeah, maybe they'd add multiple plates requiring 2 players to stand on 2 different plates, get swarmed by ads, blah blah blah. Maybe that was a D1 mechanic and I just can't remember. I don't know. If it was, as I'm sitting here trying to remember it, if it was a Destiny 1 mechanic where like there were multiple plates, if I'm not mistaken, you could stand on a plate, capture it, then go to the next plate, capture it, then go to the final plate, and then capture it, right? And of course, I think that would be changed in Destiny 2's version of Crota Inn, requiring at least 3 players, 1 to stand on each plate. But yeah, that's the first section you run through. I don't see how else they could change it other than just those minor changes we talked about. Then, of course, we get to the bridge building encounter. Now, to give you a brief summary of the bridge building encounters, there were totems, annihilator totems, similar to what we see in the altar of summoning. When you have to take the offerings to the plates, those totems that are glowing red. But in this raid, if they glowed red for too long, it would wipe your team, right? So there was that. They had sword bearers, which were special enemies that would drop a sword when they died. And you had 2 different kinds. You had a blue one and an orange one. Blue one could only be killed by something. Orange one could only be killed by something. Or no, the red ones, the red/orange could be killed by any weapons, but the blue ones could only be killed by another sword. Again, I don't see Bungie changing too much off of that either. At any rate, you would have to have 1 person to stand on totems, 1 person to bear the sword. The sword bearer would have to stand on the plate. It would build a bridge that only the person carrying the sword could cross. Once they got to the other side, they would have to stand on a plate, kill their sword bearer, and that would spawn the next one. And basically, you just did that one by one. And once you got 3 people across, you would basically, the annihilator totems would switch sides, right? So there's 2 annihilator totems on either side of this giant chasm. How could they go about changing this? This was actually an encounter that I feel like, you could do with less than 6, obviously, but with 6 people, it makes a lot of sense. I don't see how much they could possibly change from it. The team's going to be all kinds of divided. You're going to have 1 person at each totem just in case it starts getting angry, or in case 2 totems start getting angry. You've got one person killing the sword bearer, crossing the bridge, going to the other side, standing on the totem. Like, this is the one section I think was actually done very, very good. The only, like, the reason I say you could do it solo was because you could kind of cheese your way across to the other side. You could climb up basically really high, jump, and use a sword to swing across to the other side, kill the thing on the other side, and that would end the encounter after a little bit, because technically the entire fire team was on the other side. So this is something, of course, I don't think you will be able to cross without a sword at this point. Like, there's no way Bungie would allow it. Like, the only way to get through would probably have like a death barrier that literally just covers the entire chasm right down the middle. And the only way to get through is on the little bridge. You have to walk across it. And of course, the only person that can walk across it is the one carrying the sword. I think maybe a refreshment to this whole like section would be to spawn in, or not spawn in, I'm sorry, would add just another mechanic that requires a little bit, maybe like a sacrifice. Like, the Annihilator totems, all you have to do is stand under them. Maybe it would be cool to see them add a feature where now standing under them doesn't do it. Like, now you have to get kills while you have to kill enemies that are also on the plate, right? That way it requires players to, okay, you can't just kill everything in a doorway. You can't throw a grenade in a doorway and wipe everything as it comes through, because now you have to get kills under the Annihilator totem to satiate the totem or whatever, right? I think that would be a really neat idea that would add an additional mechanic that wouldn't overdo it by too much. But yeah, that's the only thing I could see that needs to be changed. Really, the things that mainly need to be changed is, of course, the Death Singer and Crota himself. And really, I don't remember too much about the Death Singer. But before we go any further, I should probably mention the secret chests. Of course, secret chests probably gonna be in the same location. There is one in the Abyss. If I'm not mistaken, it is on the first level in kind of one of the doors off hidden to the side. That will make more sense once you watch a guide for how to get it. And then, of course, the second one is actually right after the sword encounter. Once everybody's across to the other side, that's when you get your loot and another door will open. And when this door opens, an absolute butt ton of Thrall come running down this hallway. Not only do Thrall come, but Shriekers spawn, and there's like glass that blocks you that you can't go through until you kill the Shrieker, right? So you got to kill the Shriekers. You got to manage literally more Thrall than I think I could ever imagine. And I could see Bungie adding more tougher enemies, right? Acolytes, knights, stuff like that. Because in Destiny 2, this hallway, absolutely no issue. Like, you put something on with Jolt, you put on a Arc Warlock with Storm Dance or Storm, whatever it is, the roaming Arc Warlock Super. I cannot remember the name of these things. I'm getting old, guys. I'm sorry. But put that on, you blaze through it, easy peasy. I think that Bungie's got to do something to make it tougher. So I think adding maybe some knights, maybe adding an ogre and a shrieker. Like, I could see all of these things kind of happening to make it just a little bit more difficult to get down this hall. Now, why is it difficult to get down the hall? Like, why would you want to hurry up and get down the hall? That is, of course, because at the other end, there is a door that has a timer on it. Okay, as soon as the first set of doors opens, it starts that timer. That, I don't know how long it is, like maybe like a minute. You have 1 minute to get down this hallway, get all the doors open, and get inside this door before it closes. And in the room that closes up is a secret chest, right, where you can get some an additional, raid drop. Again, I think that's fantastic. I think that's a really cool idea. Unlike the puzzles and stuff, now it's not a puzzle. You just have to, strong arm your way into that room. So keep in mind that one's there. But of course, once you reach the inn, you're launched up into, I guess, Crota's throne room. And we start the Death Singer encounter. I'll be honest with you, the Death Singer is the encounter that I remember absolutely the least amount. Basically, there was a wizard that had an immune shield called the Death Singer. And as soon as you started the encounter, you would start a timer. And I think it was 2 minutes. It was called Death Singer's, I don't remember, Death Singer's song, something like that. It started a 2-minute timer. Anyways, the 2-minute timer would go, and you had 2 minutes to take down her shield and then kill her. Otherwise, she'd wipe the scene. She's saying the song of death that killed your entire fire team, blah, blah, blah. Again, I don't remember how exactly you activated the Death Singer. If I'm not mistaken, all you had to do was climb up. You had to kill, like similar to that previous hallway, you had to kill some enemies that would spawn, kill a shrieker, it would take down, you know, a doorway, then you go into the next segment of the room, kill enemies, kill a shrieker, then the Death Singer would open up, and then you could actually kill the Death Singer, and you had to absolutely dump everything you had into her. This, again, the core mechanic behind it of killing the Death Singer as fast as possible, I can definitely see Bungie putting back in here. Like, we have a bunch of raid bosses that have phases, and you have to have damage checks and phases. Off the top of my head, I don't know of any raid bosses that you have one damage phase, and if you don't kill them, you're done. And that's what Death Singer was, okay? And I'm sure there's one in Destiny 2. You can tell me what it is in the comments. I just don't remember it off the top of my head, okay? But that was, I think that's the way that Death Singer went. For this encounter, I think we just need more mechanics. Or I think Bungie would add more mechanics. I don't think we need them, because I like the idea of having a raid that is more about brute force than it is mechanics. But I could see Bungie adding more mechanics. Maybe some mechanics with some plates, you know, standing on plates to crack a doorway, you know, then you kill ads in there, then you gotta stand on another plate to crack another doorway. And then by the time, you know, the last two people are in a room with the Death Singer, they're in there, then they have to stand on a plate, and everybody else has to run in there and just absolutely shred her. Something along those lines, I think would work just fine, right? Death Singer, I mean, it's going to be a DPS check during contest mode, no doubt. She's going to have a lot of health, and you're going to have to kill her very, very fast. Otherwise, you're not going to make it through, right? Like, I think that all the other sections, there's not really a whole lot of DPS in this raid up until Death Singer. Like Death Singer and Crota, and really Crota, again, not so much about DPS, and we'll talk about Crota in a second, but the Death Singer definitely going to be a DPS check, so make sure you bring anything that's going to be good for killing wizards. Now, the great thing about the Death Singer, if I'm not mistaken, when she's singing her dirge, she doesn't move very much, so she'll hold still, so rockets, linear fusion rifles probably will do fairly well against her. But again, I don't know, and I don't really remember too much, because some things tell me no, she actually did wiggle around the room and stuff. But that's the Death Singer, sorry. Be ready for a DPS check when it comes to her. But of course, last encounter we move on to is Big Daddy Crota at the end there. And Crota, in my opinion, was the biggest like complaint I had about this whole raid, because the way that Crota worked back in Destiny 1 is literally only one person was really doing all the work, right? Like if you think about something like, you know, Oryx, you know, in the Taken King, right? Oryx, everybody has a specific role. You know, you've got people to stand on plates. You got people who are going to carry the thing around. You got people to kill ogres, stuff like that. Like you had all these different mechanics. But in Crota's end, it was one person carrying the sword that would kill Crota, and everybody else, the only job they had was to knock down Crota's shield. And of course, everybody slapped on Galahorn because it would take his shield down instantly. And then basically you just stand there while the sword bearer chopped him to pieces. That has got to change. And that really is kind of the point of this video, because all the other encounters, they could use some minor tweaking, but Crota's going to need some major tweaks. So the first thing that I could see Bungie doing here is having it so that everybody has to use the sword at some point, or at least, you know, 3 or 4 people are going to have to use the sword, right? Back in D1, only one person had to take it. I was a sword bearer back in D1. Okay, I was, you know, everybody wanted a hunter. I did it on Titan. I just used high jump, and you could jump high enough that Crota couldn't hit you. Your team would knock a shield down. By the time he hit the ground, he was ready to be attacked again. I think that these mods over here, or I'm sorry, these buffs and debuffs here, Engulfed in Light and Drained of Light, as well as the Chalice of Light too, which we'll talk about the Chalice of Light in just a second. But I think these are going to have to mainly do with the Crota, you know, the Crota fight here. Oh, we should probably talk about the other aspect of fighting Crota. When you're fighting Crota, he stopped your health regeneration. Everybody on the fire team had their health regeneration stopped, unless you were using, of course, Red Death, or you had what was called the Chalice of Light. And the Chalice of Light was basically a buff that you could go down and pick up, and it would allow whoever had it to heal. It wasn't like constant healing. It was just like, it allowed you to just start your health regeneration instead of being prevented from, regening health. This has got to be changed. I guarantee you that drained of light is going to now make it where you can't double jump. It's going to make it where you can't use your supers. It's going to maybe make it where you can't use your grenades. Like, it's probably going to do a lot more in Destiny 1 than just not being able to heal, right? It's going to basically be like suppression. I just have a feeling, right? And then engulfed in light is going to do the opposite. When you're engulfed in light, which I'm sure only one person is going to have at a time, your super might charge faster, your grenades might charge faster, your health regens, a lot quicker, stuff like that. And that sounds like a really fun and interesting mechanic. But I think that it's something that's, in Destiny 2, Bungie needs to work on having players balance that around a lot better. Because in Destiny 1, literally the sword bearer took the chalice and everybody else just played it safe or used Red Death, right? Like that was it. In Destiny 2, I bet you'll probably only be able to have the chalice of light for maybe 30 seconds at a time. They're going to add a timer to it so that once you have it for too long, you explode with light or something like that and you die, right? That could be something I'd see happening. I could also see that if a player has drained of light for too long, they'll die as well. So again, it would require players to kind of bounce the chalice around. Like, okay, like I need it, now you need it, and blah blah blah. I'm gonna kind of just pass it around. That's what it was supposed to be used for, is to be passed around. And so Bungie, there's no way they don't do that with the chalice of light now. Now, in terms of the mechanics as to like killing Crota, I really don't think that they're going to deviate too far from it. I mean, Crota, the whole lore with him is he could only ever be killed by his own sword. So I don't see them, making too much change in terms of just one person's going to be hacking him down. Like I said, the biggest change that I think they could make to, the sword bearer that actually kills Crota is that more people are going to have to do it than just one, right? Like once you have the sword once, you're not going to be able to pick it up again for like maybe 2 minutes or something like that, which will require everyone to try it and use it and have to be good at it, because that's a common theme we've seen in Destiny 2 reprise raids. No longer can you just have one person do the same role. Like now multiple people have to know what to do. Like multiple, Oryx, for example, back in Destiny 1, one person could pick up the I can't even remember the name of it, but the buff to go jump around on the little plates, to dunk the ball, to make Oryx attack, blah, 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 whatever. But in Destiny 2, they made it where a random person is selected. I could see the same thing happening here for who's selected to wield the sword, right? And then, of course, once their timer's up, or once they drop the sword or whatever, then the next person becomes empowered to hold the sword, right? And maybe the chalice would be like a similar thing. Like maybe, you have the chalice of lights. Whoever picks up the chalice of light gets the sword first, and then when you drop the sword, the next person to pick up the sword gets the chalice of light. I don't know. I think that it would probably work something like that. But yeah, I also think they will probably have more to do with the plates, right? Like, cause in Crota's throne room, like it had this kind of, let me see if I can do it on the camera here, this U shape to it, right? Like I gotta do small U shape like this, right? And Crota would be right up here. And then there were like 2 plates here. I could see them doing something with these 2 little plates down here. I don't know what it is, but I think they could. I think the ad density at Crota was fine. I mean, the knights that spawned up top were snipers, boomers. They had boomers, and they absolutely destroyed your team, especially because you can't heal. And I think that's again, with the whole idea of healing, that's something that Bungie is probably going to... I want to say they'd probably go out and change it so that you can't just heal, so to speak, because like, in Destiny 1, we didn't have many ways to heal. We had Titans could punch something and start health regeneration. Of course, Red Death, which, is now just Crimson, you could kill someone and start healing. But in Destiny 2, we have so many ways to heal now, right? We have healing rifts. We've got all different kinds of aspects and fragments and stuff that allow us to heal. We have mods that allow us to heal. Like there are so many ways that we can heal in Destiny 1. I'm pretty sure that Bungie, if they're going to hold true to the feeling of Destiny 1's Crota's End, they're probably going to strip us of a lot of that healing ability. I don't think it'll be all gone, but I definitely think it's going to be, your healing is going to be a lot more limited. If they didn't, I would be really surprised, because in this room, like a warlock with like Lumina and Boots of the Assembler probably would go a very, very long way you know, in terms of making things easier, because they could literally just stand in one spot. They could do ad clear and heal people passively while they just stand in their rift. And of course they're healing too. So again, I could see Bungie changing something like, you know, changing the amount of healing that you can do. I think that they should be careful, because I don't think you should invalidate builds like, you know, like the build you're seeing here in the background. I love using support warlock. Okay, like I've got everything built into supports, you know, getting my grenades back faster, my healing rift back faster. I don't think any builds should be made inviable, but I do think that they're gonna hamper healing quite a bit. And who knows, maybe the main way that they stop people from healing is just taking away the ability to use class abilities. You know, can't put rifts down anymore. You can't throw grenades. You can't use melee, stuff like that. You know, and at that point, the only ways to heal that I can think of would be, of course, Crimson, some of our aspects, where if you get a fragment, sorry, like Void Fragment, I don't remember the name of it, but you get a melee kill and it starts health regeneration. Like, you know, that would probably never stop being in existence, but like the Well of Radiance probably going to be gone. Banner of War, probably, because, you know, if they take away the ability to use your melee ability, that would go away, unless you're using a sword. Well, no, it doesn't. Never mind, scratch that whole thing, because it doesn't require a melee ability kill. It's just a melee kill. I don't know what they're going to do, but I could see them just making it where you can heal less and less. But yeah, that's basically, you know, kind of where I'm at with Crota's Inn. Just some of the changes I think that we could maybe expect come Friday. Of course, you know, we'll just have to see. I'm very excited to do it. I'm not going to partake in the contest mode, mainly because I have a wife and child that I have to take care of, but I'd definitely like to at least try it a couple times this weekend, or play it until I get Necrochasm, because Necrochasm looks sweet, as well as some of those crafted weapons. Fang of Ear Ute, baby, that Strand 260. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts though on Crota's End. You know, what we've talked about today. Like, how do you think they're going to change it? What do you think is going to stay the same? What do you think is going to change? Which encounters do you think are going to be the hardest? All these things, let me know in the comments. Of course, if you liked today's video, drop a like. It really helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content and conversations like this one. And yeah, tell me what you think we should talk about next in the comments. Guys, I'll see y'all later, and y'all have a good night. Bye for now.